Why do I do this to myself?
You are dead.
Fulham's a choice. But how come? A club that has been yo-yoing between the top two divisions of England, who have basically won nothing in their history except for the Championship and a UEFA competition that was basically Europa League qualifying. However, they've been close to being winners. The FA Cup in 1975 is one, another is the 2005 MLS All-Star Game. I mean, not many can get past the legendary Jimmy Conrad.
Let's go!
Okay, it's not looking great, but a big thing I remember was in 2010 where they made the Europa League final led by Roy Hodgson. They faced the pre-Simeone Atletico Madrid, but in the 116th minute, Diego Forlan broke the Cottagers' hearts, and since then, the two clubs went in very different paths. Present day, with AEW President Tony Khan on my side, it's time to bring this team back to something. Before arriving, Tony brought in a couple decent players such as Andres Pereira, Bern Leno, Issa Diop, and João Painha, who for a newly promoted side is out of this world. Carlos Vinicius and Willian were decent too, along with several loans. Having about 10 million in the bank after the sale of Onama led to my first ever signing.
Here we go.
Oscar Glo from Maccabi Tel Aviv. He's definitely a project, but has loads of room to grow. As the beginning of the campaign approached, a winger was on top of my shortlist. Cabano and De Cordova-Reid were decent, but with Harry Wilson and Solomon injured for many months, I severely needed one.
Dan James, meep. Roadrunner.
I couldn't care less to use this man. He's as strong as a feather, has the shooting ability of Arjen Robben if he never used his left foot, and the vision of Darwin Nunez on a 3-on-1. Regardless, that didn't matter to the fans as during preseason, he started getting over like Rover and was already labeled the GOAT by some.
Yes!
Tony Khan began nudging me to push this man.
No one person has ever made a more positive impact.
But he was suspended, so supporters had to wait. It's a long story. Instead, Willian started in a basic 4-2-3-1 system where
I use extended for everything, including friendly, so maybe I'm a psycho.
What? Welcome to Football Manager 2023, I guess. Despite that, we had the best chance of the match, and we're keeping it tight in the back. Mitro was requiring a sub, but I refused to take him off. Big mistake. Anthony Robinson. Oh, Mitro. Ref, The lads were surviving, and ignoring an offside scare, everything was fine. No, not the 89th minute. No. Everything wasn't fine. An exhausting opener which saw Willian's suspension tally added up to 3, a 2-week fine, and frozen out of the first team. It didn't help that I had to play Tim Ream against Everton because Tosin Adarabioyo got injured. The American is a long-term servant to the club, but he's clearly not suitable to the Premier League, and him conceding a penalty in the 3rd minute showed that. Do we have to start every game with a bang? However, Dan James introduced himself by missing a header that actually led to the Tete goal. On the other wing, we signed Andreas Schjelderup from Nordsjælland. This kid looks insane for an 18-year-old. He's been thrashing the Danish Superliga, and as James hooked him up with the ball, he beat a few guys and smashed it into the back of the net. Everton did score too, but things looked a lot better. Due to Tosin's injury and me not wanting to play Ream or Shane Duffy, I sacrificed my midfield by playing Painha in defense. Nathan Chalba would play in my ball-winning midfielder role, and against Nottingham Forest, he scored the lone goal. The two did play in the Carabao Cup encounter with Cardiff City. My concerns were justified, as the stars aligned with Ream deciding to join Duffy in marking Crowley, keeping White onside, who equalized. No extra time in this round of the competition, so penalties were up. A thing I learned about this shootout was that the keepers were awful at saving pens, and that our third string keeper can't score them either.
We are not living anymore in our lives.
The Chelsea fixture wasn't pretty, and neither was Dan James's header. Still, we were surviving their late onslaught until I made some defensive changes. Ziyech found the perfect pass with his weak foot to Aubameyang. Still a decent result, but West Ham afterwards was literal deja vu, more of an even game. But we broke the deadlock, went more defensive, leading to Painha making this pass for some reason, allowing gaps to be exposed and Scamacca equalizing. A possible 6 points turned into 2. To finish off the transfer window, Gagliardini would be our final signing for 2.6 million. He debuted versus Liverpool. He was subbed off at halftime. We were getting absolutely rinsed, and despite getting one back early in the second half, Liverpool were unforgiving, giving me my first down bad moment of FM23. Making matters worse, against our local rivals Brentford, and I say that twice because there are 80 billion football clubs in London. Nevertheless, this was the one match the fans were desperate not to lose, so we lost it. A decent free kick. Then before the international break, we played Manchester City, and you already know how this is gonna go. Fine without a win in the league, 18th place, Mitro hadn't found the net, the club atmosphere was mudded, and the cons gave me a grade that I couldn't even receive in college. Yet shockingly, a meeting regarding my future hadn't happened. Normal clubs would probably sack me during the international break, but with me and Tony Khan working together to build plans for an AEW event at Craven Cottage, he might have saved me, for now. So I took the break to study the greatest football minds. Fulham wanted attacking football to be played, but that could wait because I didn't want to make the mistake of past managers and my decision was correct. Using a slightly different 4-2-3-1 with a lower block, Painha returning to midfield along with Tosin in defense, everything turned around. Along with Sheldrup, Mitrovic finally scored and we kept a clean sheet versus Bournemouth. Aston Villa was the exact same, Mitro scoring for another 2-0 victory. Wolves gave us more problems. Even so, another clean sheet. Then against Arteta's Gooners, Andreas Pereira had this absolute beauty, and the boys stayed compact for not just a victory, but another clean sheet. Manchester United were nullified for a 0-0 draw, and to finish off October, Tosin pulled this out of nothing and Mitro slotted home another pen to secure a 2-0 win over Leeds United. 6 clean sheets. We went from the relegation spots to 3 points off Europe. I won the manager of the month, but to show how OP Haaland is, even though Tosin didn't concede a goal for 540 plus minutes, Haaland still won the player of the month with 6 goals. I'm sure EA didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, we needed this.
The great run ended against Spurs, as even though Shelley gave us a dream start, Conte's men responded with 3 of their own. Finally, 0-0 with Palace brought the mid-season break. One problem. With over a month of no fixtures, I forgot to put in friendlies to regain sharpness, so the vast majority of our players would be 2 steps behind the opposition. Newcastle displayed that by going up 3-0 in the opening half. Shelley knocked in 2, making it interesting, but it wasn't enough. Southampton then saw headers exchanged via corner kicks, and Ryan Bertrand somehow pulled this off, giving Leicester City the dub. Fulham went from 6 undefeated with no goals conceded to going 5 winless. With championship side Hull City as our FA Cup opponent and yearly murmurings of the magic of the cup, I needed to bring the secret plan back. We conceded first, and were completely outclassed in the first half. Yeah, I rotated my side, but this was pathetic. I switched to the other system in the second to do something, and Harrison Reed banked this from distance. I was feeling it, so I kept pushing, and in the final moments, don't let them score though. Don't let them score. You absolute frauds! With Haaland's tally increasing day by day, we had to deal with him. Piss off, man! However, Dan James was on the pitch, and he's been starting most of the matches to my begrudgment. But Tony Khan insisted that this was what the fans wanted. His production wasn't remarkable. Actually, it was crap, and made me think, maybe this is why we are struggling to create chances. But strictly this day, he stepped up. Let's go! After Haaland predictably made it 2-1, Harry Wilson, whip it in one more time, boy. Goat James? Dan! Goat! Dan! He's done it! Just like that, we drew Manchester City. We'd also draw Brentford, Aston Villa, and Bournemouth. If you're counting, that's 10 without a win. Now thankfully, our good run before the World Cup had us safe from relegation. Key highlights in that period was Tim Ream leaving and terminating Duffy's loan. They were pretty useless, but Mitrovic was devastated with Ream leaving. Tom Kearney was also sold, and the supporters' anger rose once again with a potential sale of De Cordova-Reid. I decided to give them the option to veto the 3.8 million sale, and the majority decided to let him go. The extra funds brought in Adamo Nagalo as FC Nordsjælland were getting raided, while Nat Phillips was brought in from Liverpool. Mitro immediately forgot who Tim Ream was. Oh, let's not talk about his debut. Speaking of red cards on their debut, Willian was sent to Russia. Regardless, the Leicester City encounter could change our fortunes. An opening minute header from Tosin and Cabano's 49th minute strike gave us a 2-0 lead. We were dominating with the 4-2-2, but a Dewsbury Hall long shot made it nerve-wracking. I decided to go to a more defensive shape to seal the result. As I was begging the ref to blow the full-time whistle, no! Off the rip, Robinson. In behind to Glock. I was savoring the end to our winless run. Come on, win that. Let's go, Shalaba. No, Shalaba! No! No! Why, Painha? Why? You're supposed to be good at football. Why not make it a 6th consecutive draw with Everton's Garner scoring a ridiculous long shot? I might have to get myself into Pictionary because I'm clearly the drawing king. Seriously, this has to end. We'd returned to our stalemate ways with Southampton, but the positive was that Shelley scored and was our top goal of all times. On the other hand, Mitrovic found the net too, which was his first goal in this many games. With Newcastle next and the threat of dropping into a relegation battle, I needed to be bold to fill the left wing gap with Shelley sidelined. I looked towards my academy to find the next player to leave for Liverpool on a free, and I found Luke Harris. Luke Harris, on his debut, whips it into Big Mitro. Mitro! Everything clicked, as not only did Mitro score a hat-trick, but Luke seemed like a miracle worker by getting Carlos Vinicius a goal as well. Dan James even got involved and assisted Mitrovic's hat-trick. At long last, a 6-0 victory ended our winless run at 14. So it was rather convenient that we didn't play a competitive match for nearly a month. Crystal Palace would whoop us, but Carlos Vinicius was our lone scorer, and with Shelley back versus Spurs, they were stunned by their former player. He scored more against them than he did in his entire time in North London. Manchester United kept the vibes high. Shelley opened it up in the first 5 minutes, but unfortunately, I'm not the best set-piece coach in the world. Carlos's honeymoon period would end, and from an auspicious Leno free kick,
Here he comes.
in spite of that, our more quiet wonder kid Oscar Glow had other plans and leaped above Luke Shaw for the equalizer. Realistically, we only needed one more win to avoid relegation. But for what, the third time this year, our tactics broke down. An unfortunate away loss to Leeds, a spanking at home to Wolves led by Adama becoming Maradona, while Arsenal killed my pride with 3 strikes in the first half. Chelsea arrived after a gruesome 1-kilometer walk, and with Zidane as coach, we allowed Reece James to have the easiest assist of his life. In the second half, despite a promising counterattack for Dan James, he decided to run through mud or whatever this is, and take out Kovacic for a second year running to get sent off. Thankfully, a win versus Nottingham Forest secured our safety with 2 matches remaining. And while it's better not to speak about the end of season run, we did the bare minimum and avoided relegation. Goal scoring was a massive problem for most of the season, and our defense became super leaky towards the end. With several players looking for new challenges, this Fulham side will have to evolve. I guess the one thing I've learned about the beta so far is that Hull can destroy the Premier League goal scoring record, and City will still finish in second. A new season means a fresh start. But the aim for the new campaign was to do a little better and get into the mid-table spots. Without a single player with 10 goals and a defense leakier than Mario Balotelli's sink after setting off fireworks, transfers were needed. Sadly, Adder Abayo and Anthony Robinson wanted new challenges. Tosin to Lyon, while Anthony took his playing cards to his American pals at Leeds.
No problem, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4.
Last season, signing Nagolo was loaned to Maccabi Tel Aviv, while Kongola was sent packing to Al Ahly. On the ends, Valeri was brought in for a cheap fee to fill in at left back with Joe Bryan backing him up. Nat Phillips made his loan permanent, Terracciano arrived on a free at right back, while in the middle, 2 guys came in. The first being Nathan. Editing this back, how the hell did I pronounce his name with an H? But he arrived for 8 million, and to start alongside him would be Niakate coming from relegated Nottingham Forest. Finally, Leno was sent packing to Real Sociedad. So following a thorough check at several keepers, Jordan Pickford was the man to keep the net secured.
Fancy myself here.
I don't think so.
The initial impression was that this was a terrible signing. But what do the fans know? The other transfers before the first game were Martin Neto on a free from Benfica, Marcos Leonardo of Santos, and of course, the return of Dan James. So, beginning everything at Anfield, I began developing a 4-1-3-1-1 system. It later became a typical 4-3-3. I must be a tactical genius though, because Mitrovic opened the scoring in the 3rd minute. He got messages in the summer about being a championship merchant, so this year, he was ready to prove every single one of those haters wrong. Unfortunately, the others didn't think the same, as Liverpool destroyed us. Jota, Nunez, and Salah didn't make my life enjoyable at all, and despite Dan James getting something late, a 4-2 loss was fair. In all honesty, the start wasn't going to be easy. In the first 8 matches, 5 of them were against the top 6 teams.
We're finished.
So against Leeds, a victory was a must. Goals would eventually arrive in the final 10 minutes from Carlos Vinicius, however, that came at a sacrifice.
Sacrifice?
And subsequently, Dan James was out for at least 3 months.
Oh, God.
The luck of the Welsh wasn't high, as Harry Wilson got injured as well. Gotta keep Luke Harris in some bubble wrap. Once Watford were dealt with in the Carabao Cup, a deadline day signing was required. Oh, there's actually 2?
I promise you that tonight is going to be a great night.
First, we continued the Welsh vibes to the side, bringing in Brennan Johnson. The price was a little steep, although he is quite versatile. The kid has returned home. Fabio Carvalho on loan from Liverpool. Some other exits, Ivan Cavallero left for West Brom, and Oscar Glow was loaned out to Bordeaux. The reason I wanted to loan him was to guarantee him playing time, which turned out to be the right call. After dealing with Norwich, we had to go through the gauntlet of hell. Wolves were the only non-traditional top 6 team in this run, but spoilers, they finished in the Champions League spots, and it showed. Vidance turned into Prime Ronaldinho. I don't know what you want me to do about that. With Zidane's dark arts, Chelsea were too much for us too. The next week saw us host Manchester United, and their former player Andreas Pereira shocked them immediately. Unfortunately, they scored 2 near identical goals before we had time to catch our breath. Andreas wasn't having it though, as with him in the box-to-box role next to Neto, Brennan Johnson was able to find his run into the area for the equalizer. A fair draw, and Pereira loves these big games, as against Arsenal, the man kept chugging forward until Mitrovic had no choice but to send it, and he tugged it home, giving the Cottagers the advantage. The Gooners would equalize due to some questionable defending and goalkeeping. But this could have been worse. Oh, great. Despite initially scoring leading to Pep losing his mind,
I'm so happy. Happy New Year.
it'd be ruled out for offside. They were going to win. You just knew it. But it wasn't Haaland who scored, it wasn't Dembele who fluffed these chances, but instead, we decided to give Mikel Merino all this space and he banged it off the post and in. I ended up trying to go for it, and we came close from Neto. Sadly, Dembele dribbled past our team, leading to Pickford pairing it straight to Foden. A 3-0 loss with Aston Villa straight after felt like a punch to the gut. Carvalho getting sent off didn't help.
I was just there in the right area.
The Carabao Cup 4th round was next. And we have to play against them again?
Very good.
Look, I know Fulham's history in this competition. I can't hide away from fate. Plus, my defenders this season have been inconsistent. So, I decided to give Harvey Araujo a chance.
I do know this much. I'm scared as hell.
He's a kid from my academy, and if I'm gonna have defenders dropping stinkers, I'd rather be a guy that can learn. To be fair, we kept it close until I went attacking at the end, but at least Mitro finally started scoring. Returning to the league, I wanted to give Harvey another game because I felt bad for putting him into that situation. Southampton seemed fine, especially with Marcos Leonardo getting the first and Mbabu following suit. Che Adams got one back, but Mitro was determined to be on that score sheet. Now, Harvey's rating wasn't good, so when we won a penalty, I thought what better way to improve it than giving him the pen. He missed and finished with a 5.7 rating. Okay, I felt bad again for embarrassing him in front of his family, so another start versus West Ham. None of my defenders wanted to help Pickford in the first minute, and we could only equalize thanks to the big Serb for a draw. Harvey improved, so let's play him against Crystal Palace. Okay, enough of this silly business.
Finally!
17th place isn't a good look. Now granted, we have a much easier set of matches to look forward to. Although, what was needed was bringing the tried and tested 4-2 back. Plus facing a Middlesbrough side not ready for the Prem. 3-0 result was what the doctor ordered. Now, it was time for the annual Newcastle at home drumming, featuring a Mitrovic hat-trick, a Pereira banger, and Luke Harris putting the salt on the wound. Now, Nat Phillips was defending well. It currently didn't matter if it was with Diop or Nathan. Clean sheets started rolling, Everton included, although they kept their net safe too. Watford then saw Dan James and Leonardo making sure our defending didn't go to waste. With Leicester City, Jamie Vardy would bring back the years, but Mitrovic got not just an assist, but a brace for himself, which was added with Shelley's goal. The clean sheets returned versus Brighton with a Brazilian and Norwegian leading us to another victory. Amazingly, we were in 7th. Yeah, you're not hearing that wrong. But of course, it had to be ruined by Manchester City. Worst of all, Dan James got injured again.
I'm not happy at all.
Visiting the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was a little intimidating, but Lloris handed us a gift for an early lead. Inevitably, we began to show off our poor defending with Mbabu doing who knows what. This led to a loss, but we didn't allow Harry Kane or Son to score on us. No. We let their substitute freaking Borja Iglesias get a hat-trick with some of the worst marking I've witnessed. An elimination by Norwich in the FA Cup afterwards was nearly the final straw, until we actually performed well against Arsenal. Brennan Johnson found Carvalho to open the scoring. Regrettably, Pickford decided to do his best Simon Mignolet versus Xhaka impression when Odegaard shot the ball straight past him. The scoreline was fine, yet I wanted more. Alright, good switch. Harris to Milos, great pass. Milosevic in behind to Johnson. Sheldon!
Yes! Oh yes! Come on, Fulham!
With his momentum shifting result, good form was back on the Met. No, we lost to Southampton, despite almost doubling their XG. Frustrating stuff. And I can say the same about several defenders. No matter what pairing, it was very rare for both of them to have a good match. So I decided to scour the lands for one that could be more consistent. And I only had to ask Painha for advice. That's because Gonzalo Inacio was willing to sign for us. I just needed to sell some players to secure the deal. On deadline day, Carlos Vinicius was let go to Lille for 14 million, and I needed around 10. Crap! Earlier in the season, Niakate was someone who performed poorly, and a heated argument subsequently placed him on the transfer list. The guy trolled me for a few hours, but left for West Ham, and thus, Gonçalo was secured. We also signed young Serbian Jovan Milicevic, who is basically Mitro light. Before that, we drew Aston Villa 2-2 with these strikes in the last 19 minutes. Versus Brighton, Mitrovic gave us a 3-1 lead heading into the second half, so let's defend, is what I would say, but this is Fulham. Of course we can't do that. Inácio dropped a 6.5 on his debut, but he improved against Leeds as Mitro and Painha's tidy finish provided a 2-1 victory. Liverpool next had me expecting an L, but Joe Gomez tripped up Leonardo for a pen. With the GOAT returning from injury, he tucked it in. Following a trillion ricochets, Liverpool got so lucky and equalized. Prior to halftime though, Pickford made this ridiculous save which had me in two minds. What a save! But what the crap was that, Tete? It was a big moment though, as in the ensuing moments after the break, with a basic throw in, we infiltrated their box, and Neto was found for a 2-1 lead. The Reds would respond in about 10 minutes, but with 5 to go in the full 90, Mitro, no not Mitro, Andreas Pereira! Don't tease me here, game. Not like this. No! Well, that was short-lived. Nevertheless, I can't be mad, and while Inácio dropped a stinker, it's Liverpool.
Congratulations.
Jamie Vardy decided to come to Craven Cottage and do this, which I couldn't believe, but we responded well with Shelley receiving a brilliant ball from Painha to round the keeper, and Johnson giving Mitro an easy tap-in. He celebrated like he knew he was the man. Minutes away from a deserved victory, Nicolas Pepe found a ball to Iheanacho for the equalizer. Guess who lost him? A visit to Vicarage Road provided one of the most wild matches in my tenure. Dan James celebrates a brace in the first 16, Sarr gets a goal back because we can't mark, and prior to the break, Tom cleverly of all people smacked this home. Watford found the lead with 15 left on the clock, and despite Brendan Johnson equalizing in the 85th, Diop with infinite time headed a long pass straight to them, and a through ball later, it was 4-3. I was enraged, pushed everyone forward, and with hope nearly evaporated, a simple Mitro header gave Andreas Pereira a 1-on-1, he equalized. Alright, I'll buy it. Inácio didn't play in that fixture, but he did in a 3-1 victory over Everton where Diop certainly made up for his mistake. Gonçalo still finished with a 6.5. He received the exact same rating versus Newcastle, partly because of the lead up to their equalizer. Pickford wasn't shining himself in glory either. The inconsistency of his goalkeeping was irritating. Shelley and Mitro both scored, but another late strike by the opposition left me soulless. The deflected pass to Wilson was of course off Inácio. At this point, Europe was attainable, and it'd be looking great if some of these draws went our way. A Middlesbrough victory made it seem possible with 7 to go, although drawing Palace wasn't as cool due to the chances wasted. The final stretch of the second season had by the end 4 of the top 6 scheduled. And Spurs.
Are you joking?
Norwich was a sole positive in these final 6 matches. Not only did we hit blanks in the other 5, but we conceded 17 times. I won't bore you with the several mistakes our defenders made, but to conclude, we improved by 10 points from the previous campaign, finishing in 12th. The positive was being the 6th highest in goal scoring. Mitrovic had 19, Shelder maintained a tally of 9, and Andreas Pereira was fantastic. Other parts of the attack can be improved, but little complaints on that end. The true grievances were the ones conceded. We had the 4th most goals against in the league, more than 2 of the relegated sides. There's something wrong here, and I need to figure it out ASAP if I want European football next season. So thanks to the schedule makers for putting Liverpool as their opening game for a 2nd year running.
Again, please.
The defense was terrible last campaign, so thankfully we found Gonçalo Inácio a friend. Andre Amaro from Vitória de Guimarães. I'm sure things won't go poorly now. To add depth to our defense, Wilson Esbrand came on loan from Manchester City to rotate at left back. Our starter Valeri had a terrible debut campaign, but hopefully he picks it up. I also brought in a backup keeper to Pickford named Robin Zentner, who you may know for doing this.
Oh man, I'm not laughing at him. Definitely not.
Unfortunately, I sold Painha following a less than stellar Arsenal bid. Realistically, we're Fulham, and he wanted to go there. In order to replace him, I brought in João Gomes, where attribute-wise, he's not that much worse. I also pulled an FM player with money move and brought Moises Caicedo from relegated Brighton to play a right back.
Congratulations, you're stupid in 3 languages.
Welcome to Project Caicedo. Outside of crossing, he has great attributes to be a fullback, so I'm all in. With 48 million to use prior to the Painha sale, a few more outgoings had to be made. That included Kenny Tete, Harry Wilson, and Harrison Reed, who all went for around the same price. So with a predictable 3-0 thrashing from Liverpool, our season unofficially began with future Champions League quarterfinalists, Wolves. To achieve European football for ourselves, ideally we want to win the home games with the sides who should finish below us. At the same time, have a good mix of victories and draws away from home, with most of the top 6 except a loss, but pull a few results out and maybe a UEFA competition is possible. The beginning of the campaign worked out like that, although it wasn't easy. Mitrovic bagged a brace versus Wolves to gain our first 3 points. Afterwards, Arsenal at the Emirates went down to the wire, with the score unchanged throughout the 90. That is not a penalty, ref. No. What? Tielman's taking the pen. Come on, Pickford. Let's go! Pickford, who said we need a keeper. Now in the annual Newcastle drumming, there was none. For once, our home fixture with them was tight, with Isak getting 2, while Mitrovic and Oscar Glow scored for us. But near the end, Big Dan James, yeah, he's having a great game. Ooh. Let's go! And Nazio, back post. And Fulham, for a 3rd year running, defeat Newcastle at home. Let's go! The craziness ensued at the Hawthorns with West Brom. We fell behind 2-0 to a newly promoted side. But luckily, their loanee Nagalo was not available because he isn't allowed to play against his parent club. Us, counter, Mitro. Move. Johnson. Boom, let's go. That's 1 back. Caicedo. In behind, Leonardo. Golazzo!
Yeah, Max Leonardo, menino da vila.
Not enough for a win. Regardless, newly promoted teams can be pesky away from home. Burnley? Don't worry about them. In these first matches, I started with the 4-3-3, which I felt was safer. However, in the recent fixtures, I had to switch to the 4-2-2. It allowed me to use both Mitrovic and Marcos Leonardo together. As a 4-3-3, I chose Schilderup as the left winger. Marcos wouldn't score, but he'd be involved in the goals, laying off the ball for a Dan James banger, and finding Mitrovic early in the second half in what would be the game winner. The dubs continued with Everton, but I can't say the same about Manchester City. Yes, he scored, okay? When does he not? I got blasted by the media for going away from the 4-2-2 in this match, so with Aston Villa next, I reverted back, and instead of football, we played bloody ping pong. Both sides were leaving abhorrent amounts of space, and goals kept exchanging until it was 3-3. Thankfully, Marcos Leonardo found the 4th to give us the lead, but despite trying to shut things down, no, I can see it already. He's offside! He's offside! Please! No! I still had 1 sub to bring on Luke Harris. Or is there more? Harris? Let's go! Please be onside. No. That was the calmest Fulham match. Alright, Burnley. Yeah, Oscar Glow got 2 near the end, avoiding embarrassment against the worst Premier League side in history. Focusing on the Carabao Cup, Fulham have never gotten to the semi-final in its 64-year history. After defeating Millwall in the second round, it looked like that fact would remain with Arsenal up next. Now, I didn't mention Painha in the first fixture, but he had a massive impact here. In the 82nd minute, his pass was intercepted by Caicedo, and the Ecuadorian found Dan James in behind for the winner. Appreciate it, João. Why isn't Caicedo playing right back? I sometimes move him to midfield depending on João Gomes' performances because the Brazilian dreads playing in big matches. Nevertheless, Dan James was off to a flyer. However, it would be his Welsh counterpart who would save us in the next round. Oh, he's no longer Welsh. Raider! With their only shot on target, Manchester United's Sancho bonked the ball off Zentner's noggin to take the lead. Yet, Luke Harris again was brought on late. Luke Harris? Let's go! Now, unfortunately, he missed his strike in the penalty shootout, but so did Sancho. And into sudden death, the Larry scored his, but Luke Shaw didn't, and we advanced to the quarterfinals versus Aston Villa. Unlike the Premier League fixture, this was more calm, with Harris finding Leonardo and Neto calmly finding the second from distance to send Fulham to their first ever Carabao Cup semi-final. It was an exciting time, and of course we have to play Liverpool.
Wow.
I would love to tease and make you think we had any sort of chance, but when the 2 legs came up in January, we got smacked and lost 8-3 on aggregate. Somehow though, Leeds defeated them in the final. I mentioned what we had to do to get European football through the league, but another thing that would help us is if other teams struggled as well. Manchester United, Arsenal, and Tottenham were all in European competitions this season. Regardless, last year they finished 6th, 7th, and 8th respectively. Things weren't all sunshine and rainbows at those clubs, unlike in the first season where they ended up in Europe's elite competition. Arteta Ball began struggling when Gabriel Jesus won in Champions League football, Ten Hag was showing signs of struggle towards the end of the last campaign, while Spurs decided to bring back Poch. Oh no! They were down tremendously with legitimate discussions of relegation at some points, but this gave a unique opportunity for ourselves. Up until Christmas, we were earning the results we needed. A destruction of Southampton, an unfortunate draw with Crystal Palace, followed by a loss to Chelsea, which the only open play goal they scored was literally a gift to them. Nevertheless, these results weren't against the grain, although nearly losing to Brentford could have unraveled everything. An Ivan Toney penalty gave them a 3-2 lead. Ben Mitro, though, wasn't having it. Unfortunately, he'd get injured versus Manchester United and wouldn't be fit during the busy festive period. This was Luis Enrique's debut as United boss, and despite being up 2-0 with McTominay at center back, United would turn it around. Caicedo's 17 tackling wasn't working, and Bruno Fernandes made it even. That's good. Good play, giving goals, fantastic stuff. Dan James, cross in. Luke Harris, let's go! That'd be the winner. Everything continued with Leeds and Watford. I switched back to the 4-3-3 with Marcos Leonardo as the advanced forward, and the man was really making life easy. Everyone around him was playing well, but he and Mitro were the reasons why Fulham had a 4th place spot. Despite a tough patch of form following Christmas with an unfortunate loss to Leicester City, Mitro's comeback not being enough for Spurs, plus the inescapable Haaland destruction, we were still in 4th. Brushing aside the FA Cup and Carabao Cup disappointment in January was also crucial. Yeah, maybe we lost another West London derby to a different club, but that didn't bring us into turmoil. Instead, it brought the group stronger together. With Rodrigo Muniz returning from Korea, Milosevic going to Derby on loan, and Dane Scarlett being our emergency loan, we were ready to set off for this European spot. A 3-2 Everton victory, highlighted by this ridiculous João Gomes strike, was especially sweet with a rotated side. Burnley was an automatic win, even before setting foot onto the pitch. Aston Villa wasn't as crazy as the first fixture, yet there were things that didn't make sense. Luckily, Marcos Leonardo getting a goal and an assist, aided with a Mitro pen, continued the winning. Then, it was Spurs again with Roberto Martinez as coach. For some reason, he basically wanted to play 7 in defense, but allowed a bunch of space. Neto had some incredible passes, while Double M continued their goal-scoring partnership. The two did it again as Wolves were taken out, and versus Liverpool, where they were down to 10 with 30 to go, Marcos hit the bar, which would have equalized the match, but instead, Darwin Nunez would secure Liverpool's dub because Diop is an idiot! Regardless, we got revenge against Leicester in a dominant display. Watford, though, looked bleak. Dale Fry made it 1-0, and we couldn't find the net even if we tried. Oh, I guess we didn't need to. An early Marcos Leonardo goal gave us another victory versus Leeds, and before the international break, it was a visit to Old Trafford. Double M linked up giving us the lead, but Flamengo fans who scoffed at me saying Andres Pereira is a big game player were vindicated following a loss of possession. That led to a short hire equalizer. At the end of the day, a fine result. That means we have 8 matches remaining, and Champions League football looked like it was arriving to the cottage. 10-point lead above Newcastle, and a remaining schedule was easier than previous years. Although our luck wasn't going to last. Andreas Schellerup got sprained knee ligaments, which kept him out until the last few fixtures. He did end up having the most assists in his career, yet his goal tally decreased. Still a tough loss. And in the 20th minute versus Chelsea, Marcos Leonardo would be sidelined. Bruised ribs was the diagnosis. In the derby versus the Blues, Raheem Sterling scored twice prior to the injury, and Lukaku slaughtered home a penalty after the referee called this. We tried to come back, and nearly did with Pereira and Dan James scoring, but Sterling secured his hat-trick late. Now, I hadn't complained too much about my defenders today, and while Amaro did a fine job despite several mistakes, Inácio seemed like he was improving. Even so, these 2 recent performances had me concerned. Oh, Inácio! Also, the 2 leaving space for Zaha was incredible to say the least. Nevertheless, Luke Harris got one before... It didn't end there. 2 of the worst tackles I've ever seen led to absolutely nothing. So Southampton was a must-win. Let me get some water. Well, we'll see how this goes. If you're going to take anything from this Palace match, don't let it be the red cards. Project Caicedo wasn't perfect, and Valeri proved to be one of the biggest frauds I've ever seen. With these attributes, he should be class. Good for most Premier League sides, relishes big matches, and is a very consistent performer? Yeah, consistently. I had to go with something like this and hope the guys could defend well. Southampton were pummeling us with strikes. Still, it was looking good. And then, a miracle occurred. No way. Me too. How I won this, I will never know. I completely FM'd Southampton. But I think the game realized that. We continued our trend of not winning a West London derby by getting demolished by Brentford. And then Newcastle came up. And a loss here would begin to make this race for top 4 uncomfortable. We were feeling the pressure, and it wasn't good. If we let it slide anymore, our spot in 4th would be gone. So up against Arsenal, Mitro put us in front. The Gunners would respond with an Odegaard banger. However, we were actually playing well. Although with these missed chances, the pressure was too much. Those would cost us, as following a counter-attack, Nketiah would find the net, and another incredible long shot would hand us an L. If Newcastle won their fixture in hand, they'd hop above us. Thankfully, they lost to Tottenham, which made me happy. Initially. I then realized Spurs had 2 matches to play and were 5 points behind. Manchester United also found themselves in the mix. Spurs would win versus Palace, and we had to deal with West Ham, who were having a rough campaign. Didier Deschamps was their manager, and they got on the board early? Wait, what? The guys were not performing whatsoever, and it wouldn't get better when Shelderoop got sent off in the 50th minute. West Ham steamrolled us, leaving the Champions League spot out of our hands. Newcastle defeating Liverpool confirmed us dropping out of 4th for the first time since matchday 14. Both Tottenham and United could push us even further down with 2 games in hand each. There are only 5 places for Europe. Leeds won the Carabao Cup as mentioned, and in the FA Cup final, it was between Everton and Championship winners Brighton. Thankfully, Spurs lost the North London derby while United drew Villa. Spurs continued the bottle as they got thrashed by a Chelsea side who were fighting for the title with Liverpool, who were following it themselves. United won the Manchester derby, but were still behind us. Fulham versus West Brom on the final day, and at the same time, Magpies had Southampton. Both relegated sides, so it made sense that we went behind 1-0 to Daryl DK. Thankfully, we finally got ourselves back together and had Double M picking up goals before halftime. In an incredible turn of events, Bellotti took the lead for Southampton, although McAllister equalized in the 45th minute. As the second half kept rolling and the lack of updates from St. Mary's, we clinched our victory with a late Andres Pereira strike. Full-time whistle went, and awaiting the Newcastle result, let's go! Fulham have never competed in the UEFA Champions League. I still can't believe we pulled it off. So let's get to the group draw. Huh? 8 games? A league table? Matches in January? UEFA, what have you done? Our anticipated debut in the Champions League will be at the San Mamés against Athletic Bilbao. Breathe in the Champions League music, as the rest of the match was less than memorable. You could say the same about the start of the season. Pictionary finally arrived at my house, because as is tradition, we were drawing a bunch. The first 4 Premier League matches all finished 1-1. The highlights were Carvalho's 89th minute goal being cancelled out immediately by Mateta, and James Justin breaking my heart as we were minutes away from an incredible result against Manchester City. Fabio Carvalho also scored in that game. Alright, he's back again. Another loan for the kid, although the fans weren't as excited as before. I told you we overdid the returns. Regardless, another return was Wilson Esbrand on a permanent contract for $5 million. Now, a lot of changes were needed for one of the worst defenses in the league last season. Valeri was no longer the guy, so Shimikas came in from Lazio for 30 big ones. I wouldn't register Valeri into the Champions League squads, and he'd be sold. Another year, and another center back in. No one great wanted to join us. So the best we could do was bring in Igor on loan from Barcelona with the option to buy. If he's better than Ignacio, I won't complain. The last defensive signing was in net, Dennis Seyman from Stuttgart. One of, if not the best wonder-kid keeper in the game. I was shocked that he actually wanted to join me. That meant, Pickford, go. I don't need you anymore.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving!
Wolves were not giving up on him. However, once they had it at a combined 40 million plus, I had a chat with Pickford and told him to get the hell out. No more Pickford. Unfortunately, all my new signings wouldn't help us win. Well into September versus Tottenham, Heung-min Son scored 2 pretty quickly because did we fix our center back issue? Probably not.
I mean, what is the point?
Now, there was one transfer I didn't tell you about, and he would make his debut off the bench. When Football Manager 2023 came out, everyone was talking about one specific wonder kid. A guy who has the potential to become the best player in the game, who in real life is being chased by Real Madrid, PSG, Chelsea, and I'm sure a bunch of other clubs. Endrick is supposed to be the next big thing in Brazil, and at 16, he's already getting starts for Palmeiras. We're 4 years into the game, and somehow, no big clubs went after him. The only one was Everton, and I thought, yeah, that's not happening. So he came in for 19.5 million. As he came off the bench, there was this aura around him where defenders had no clue what to do. Neither did Livakovic, who gifted his first ever goal. we still lost. Brushing past the Carabao Cup because we played Manchester City, we finally won a match. Versus Leeds, an Anthony spin from Carvalho actually led to a proper pass where Mitro lost the ball, but luckily it went to Endrick, who tucked it home. Aston Villa continued the positivity with 4 goals in the first half. Chevleroux, Brennan Johnson, and Marcos Leonardo all involved. He'd also opened his scoring versus Everton, but instead of a comfortable performance, this time it was more erratic. Fabio Carvalho scored a brilliant free kick, but Fabrizio Diaz channeled his inner Luis Suarez and left my team lying on the floor. To finish off the clown show, we took out our former player Carlos Vinicius out in the box, probably because of the 50% clause, and his penalty was the winner. Ignacio on a 5.8, and Amaro, not much better. Sergio Conceição became Arsenal manager to send them from relegation to mediocrity. When his side arrived at Craven Cottage, they clearly didn't expect Chevleroux to score 2 in the first 15. They must have been rattled as we kept a clean sheet, and it seemed like our defense were turning it around. 300 IQ defending gives them all the space and then blocks it. Versus Norwich, it was more of a rotated side, and with Endrick and Rodrigo Muniz giving us a 2-0 lead, all was sealed.
Fight and win!
The frustration was avoided when we won a penalty late, but the next 6 Premier League fixtures were disastrous. West Ham and Newcastle had me raging. Stupid mistakes and defensive acts that I swear could be charged for war crimes. Those 2 losses turned into 3 as Chelsea continued the frustration with Andres Pereira being too casual on the ball, Gallagher getting open like McAllister, and Amaro getting sent off. Newly promoted Brighton was a snorefest. Liverpool, however, was looking different. Right before halftime, Oscar Golovin scored. I was shocked, so agent Shimikas decided to give space on Salah's right foot, and Seaman conceded this, which was pathetic. Even worse, we let old Tennyson score off a corner to continue the disappointment. Against Wolves, playing Nat Phillips while he was recovering from food poisoning wasn't smart, as Gonçalo Guedes scored off a rebound. Mitro would immediately get a red card. Fabio Carvalho wasn't helping either, as he got sent off too. Wolves would take advantage, having Guedes to get 2 more to complete his hat trick. That left us in 13th after 15 matches. With the new format, we still had 7 games, and the difficulty was on both sides of the aisle. Big teams like Atletico Madrid, Juventus, Bayern, and Barcelona remained. Although, on the other end, Dinamo Kiev, Ludogorets, and Partizan were rarely problems in previous FMs. That continued to be true, as the results with them were 4-2, 3-0, and 6-1 respectively, while using a rotated side. The remaining 4 matches proved to be a challenge, and brought back memories of 2010. Let's start with Juventus, who last faced Fulham in the Europa League round of 16 in that mentioned year. One club went on to dominate their country, the other was Fulham. Despite being at home, Gabriel Jesus was threatening early, and that threat soon led to a 9th-minute goal from the Brazilian.
I blame Ignacio.
Don't you fear, Marcos Leonardo was here to make it all even, but not for long. One thing you don't want to do is give space for Paul Pogba to shoot. I guess my guy didn't want to stick out his foot. Luckily, Juventus made a mistake after the break, and Marcos Leonardo equalized. 2-2 was the final result. Going back to 2010, Atletico Madrid were Fulham's Europa League final opponent, and the two would finally get to play each other again. It finished 0-0. Moving on. After 6 Champions League fixtures, we were in 7th place, which would automatically send us to the round of 16. The problem was that we still had Bayern and Barcelona left. Stepping onto the Allianz Arena pitch, a cautious approach was the play. That didn't help with defending their free kick, where Okoli scored the lone goal, dropping us down to 13th. In the new format, if you finish outside the top 8, you head to a playoff phase where teams in 9th to 24th play in a knockout round to determine who goes to the last 16. It was a must-win versus Barcelona, and some luck was needed too. They've won La Liga in the first season of the save, but Real Madrid have been dominant ever since. Nevertheless, they still had a strong side. Thinking about this for a second though, Barcelona are playing at Craven Cottage. In what world are we living in? Clearly UEFA Lona's world, as we conceded an early penalty. What is this, UEFA Lona? Oh, it's saved! Robert misses! Free kick now. Leonardo!
Waste time.
We beaten Barcelona! Let's go! We still didn't finish in the top 8, so we'll face Lyon in February. Meanwhile, there were 8 Premier League matches played. With us closer to relegation than Europe, we had to start picking up the results. Arsenal at the Emirates looked like a brilliant display, despite Martinelli making us look like fools before the opener. We regrouped in the second half as Neto scored a banger in the 54th minute, nearing the last 10 on the clock.
Great ball. Leonardo. Rodrigo. Leonardo. Andreas. Let's go! Instead, Lakonga sends in Pepe. Come on.
on.
Again, I blame Ignazio.
Stoke following was difficult, but Marcos Leonardo did enough to break the stalemate. He'd repeat the feat versus our West London rivals Brentford, but once again, we just can't get over the hump in these derbies as it ended in a draw. Marcos Leonardo popped up one more time, but a ball in behind, a missed header, and a Christian Eriksen free kick brought back the pain.
Spain without the S.
Let me introduce you to Isaac Togo. He's a new gen center back I bought from Millwall last January for 8.75 million. With all the adults dropping stinker after stinker, I thought, let this guy play. After several matches, he began to get comfortable, and that confidence was displayed as he scored his first ever goal against Everton. It was a solid display from the boys, which yet again saw Marcos Leonardo scoring. Everton would get their revenge and eliminate us from the FA Cup, but I won't worry about it. What I was concerned with was his deadlock with Aston Villa, an even match that saw Endrick and Rebic exchanging goals. Until...
Can definitely be wrong. I'd happy beat Maro, you bozo! We're gonna have to play Gagliardini at center back. What have we come to? I think this is just gonna be a highlight to end the game. Unless we can counter and score, I won't be mad. Endrick. Okay. Endrick? Let's go! Endrick!
A Norwich smashing later, we hosted Manchester United at the end of January. There would be some action, but the sides decided to save it late.
Let's go, Igor! Highlight with 3 minutes of regular time left. Did I see that right? Oh, no. No! Is McGuire playing right back? Yes. Johnson. Brennan Johnson. Nat? Johnson. Let's go!
Fulham are massive. Add that with destroying Watford and finally winning a West London derby thanks to a Dan James goal. We were in 5th after 26 matches, 1 point behind 4th. Lyon have been in disarray throughout this save. A prime example is offering me the job to manage them. Twice. The Parc Olympique Lyonnais hosted our first ever Champions League knockout fixture. It didn't start off well with Galeno completely rinsing Moises Caicedo.
At least the project succeeded.
Simon was also injured for this round, but off the ensuing kickoff, Brennan Johnson was tripped up for a penalty, and Shamikas would make up for his poor corner to give us the lead heading into the second leg. Lyon were obliterated, and we're lucky it was only 2-1. They put up more of a fight in leg 2, however, Marcos Leonardo begged a brace to send us through. Now that we qualified for the Champions League round of 16, who would be our opponent?
Who did we draw?
Real Madrid! It's not every day that Craven Cottage gets to host Barcelona and Real Madrid in a season. The plan was to keep it tight at home and pray in the second leg. Good news, Vinicius Jr. was injured. The bad news, the rest of their team wasn't. A few chances came and went, but all scored at half. Sadly, off a Real Madrid free kick, the back post remained unmarked for a Viper, a guy Real Madrid paid 90 million for. Marcos Leonardo nearly equalized, but Courtois tipped it off the post. Amaro? What are you doing? Oh, where's our defense? Where did our defense go? An even match ruined by a dumb error and Courtois. The second leg was simple for Madrid as they'd find the third goal of the tie to put us in our place. We had 12 matches left in the Premier League and one goal: get back into the Champions League. We came up to the age-old question, can Fulham do it on a cold rainy night in Stoke? With Endrick and Schelderup? The answer was yes. Carvalho and Marcos Leonardo dealt with Crystal Palace, but then it was the international break.
I felt a great disturbance in the force.
Every single season after this break, our club collapsed. That needed to change, but unfortunately, Wolves had other plans. Catenaccio. No one marking Kilman off a rebound, and Jordan Pickford getting an assist because Inácio can't win a header. Add that with our 3 expected goals equaling 1. With Liverpool and Chelsea next, we can kiss 4th place goodbye. We've never beaten them in the save. Oh, Hernandez, mistake, Brennan Johnson. Brennan Johnson! Brennan Johnson! Golazzo Fulham! Let's go! Despite several Liverpool chances, they weren't on it, and we pulled it off. Even better, Manchester United couldn't do it on a cold rainy night in Stoke, leaving us just 1 point behind. Now, can we do the same with Chelsea?
Oh gosh, Chilwell. Bro, how does Chilwell score there? Goat James? Ankara James? Dan James! Oh! My word! Let's encourage. Last 10 minutes. Oh, Wilson Esbrand finds glow. To Ankara Dan James. Again? Oh my! Oh!
A tough away match at Newcastle ended in a stalemate, and losing to West Ham at home was spoiling the chase. United were now 6 points above us, and soon to be relegated Brighton continued our misery by going 2-0 up in 24 minutes. However, Mitrovic, who has been a shadow of his former self, got one back. He may no longer be the guy in the future, but his contributions late in the season were crucial. Endrick would equalize, and the comeback would be complete with Andreas Pereira finding Endrick for the late winner. Leicester would then smack 3-0, despite Dan James getting sent off when he got annoyed about losing the ball or something. Regardless, Man United's 2 fixtures went poorly, losing to Everton and Chelsea. We were tied on points, and this race was now only with us and them. We both had to face Manchester City, and even though Pep said, "Oh, we will rotate our side versus Fulham,"
so that was a lie.
Man City kept cooking up chances, but Seaman made some massive stops, and City weren't on it. Then, with about 5 minutes left, Neto would smash in the winner. United defeated Leicester, but before we set onto the pitch versus Leeds, they'd be on the end of Pep's wrath.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
We have the opportunity to hop into 4th, but Leeds weren't making it simple. Goals exchanged until it was 2-2. A draw would place us 1 point above 5th, but with Spurs on the final day, I couldn't just sit and not go for the winner. Last minute highlight. Oh no, our wingbacks are out of position. Oh no, what have I done? What have I done? Okay, we're fine. Oh no! Oh, what have I done? United won on the final day, while we drew Spurs and finished in 5th. So I guess it's Europa League dreaming next year. Just kidding. After the Champions League final, UEFA was like, actually, you qualified. In this final campaign with Fulham, can I win a trophy? Maybe pull off a massive upset in the Champions League? Heck, maybe even win the Premier League. Never a dull moment at Fulham. As with Spurs on the opening day, the schedule makers once again were not too kind. We've never won a season opener, but despite a red card, that might have been changing. Let me introduce you to Nikola Milinkovic, who arrived from Fiorentina for $23.5 million. In the 72nd minute, he was found at the back post for the lead. As we were headed into added time, I made some subs to slow the game, but crap, I was gonna make a sub, but João Gomes, oh no, what a bad touch, and now we're exposed. Dan James is like, nah, not on my watch, mate. These are some bold passes. No, offside. Not like this, FM. Oh no. Don't do this to me. Come on. Yeah, you could say Dan James cost us. What a rough start, and it only got worse with Manchester City. Erling Haaland has completely dominated the save, winning every single award you can imagine. So you wouldn't be surprised to hear that Haaland got a hat-trick, because of course he did.
It was about time.
We kept it close by tying it twice, including Milinkovic scoring again. However, their quality was too much for us. We got bloody Newcastle next away from home, where we got kicked in the nuts, our face dunked into the toilet, and a 3-0 loss. Last place after match day 3. I didn't expect us to be this down bad already. Still, Milinkovic was doing better than any center back we ever used, and Guendouzi seemed like a great upgrade to our midfield. He was brought from Marseille for $47 million. I also bought another one named Anthony Malrini. A bit on the hefty side, but he's pretty good. The outgoings included Nagalo, Issa Diop, Filippo Tariciano, Jovan Milosevic, and Jay Stansfield. The final exit of the window was sadly Neto.
You what?
In the final year of his deal, he wouldn't be starting with Guendouzi in, so it was best to part ways. I don't know what's going on with Fulham, but it didn't get much better. We did smack the shit out of Derby County, but so did everyone. Whether we were playing well or not, it didn't matter. West Ham, Chelsea, and even Norwich all gave us losses. Afterwards, Arsenal should have been a win despite conceding this within 30 seconds. But let's bring up Inacio. We had a throw-in in their end, but we lost it and Arsenal went on the counter. For some reason, Inacio, who was marking an attacker, decided, oh wait, I should be playing right center back. Igor was like, bro, just stick with your man. Inacio didn't listen, so Maxi Gomez got on the ball, which meant Igor had to press him. Pepe realized Inacio's idiocy and went into the open space, chipping Seaman to equalize. You might ask why Inacio was playing. Unfortunately, Milinkovic got injured for a month, and I played the Portuguese fraud against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup just 3 days prior. He actually scored and kept a clean sheet, so I thought he could be trusted. But nope! This was after I didn't register him for the Champions League, which was a shock to the media. I guess Sky Sports haven't been watching us for the past 4 years. Inacio wanted answers. Open the door, bro! But if he can't take a hint, then I don't know what else to say. Despite all of that, he was happy to stay. Now, how did we qualify for this competition despite finishing in 5th? With the new format, there are 4 additional teams, and 2 of them went to the best nation coefficient for the previous season. That was Spain and England, which meant we qualified. The schedule seemed a lot easier than last year, but after defeating Fenerbahce 4-0, Shakhtar scored 3 in the first 32 to make sure we couldn't come back. Real Madrid were certainly our toughest opponent, and with the previous campaign elimination in mind, it was time for revenge. That was made a lot simpler with Ake getting sent off 20 minutes in. It did take a while, but Luke Harris scored a late goal to secure a victory. Anderlecht were also defeated, but that was as good as it got. 2 red cards versus Roma, including Dan James. Really, bro? That led to a 3-1 defeat. Porto at home was a snooze fest, and it should have been a victory versus their Portuguese rivals Benfica. Instead, football's played on grass believers won again, as the Lisbon club scored against the run of play, leading to a loss. We could no longer finish in the top 8, but unless we got smacked by Dortmund, we would make the playoff round. We blew a 2-0 lead to them. However, it wouldn't get worse, and we finished in 21st, while Dortmund just missed out. In the draw for the playoff round, out of these 8 sides, we got Atletico Madrid.
It is what it is.
Before that, things began turning around in the league. After Rooney said we were set for a season of struggle, he had a birthday to forget as he drew us. He later would get sacked.
That's satirical, that is.
Then, we went on a run. 4 wins in a row with goal scorers all over the pitch. That brought Leeds, who if it wasn't for the new Champions League format, would have prevented us from qualifying. We wanted to show them who we are, and things looked good with Mulroney and Endrick giving us a 2-1 lead. However, madness ensued from the 83rd minute. Oh, come on. Okay, now we have no one coming back, and they're getting a chance. Okay, great. Come on, one pass. There we go. Come on, one more. One more goal, please. Oh, please, no. Whoa! A penalty? This corrupt league! As I descended into madness, the side somewhat rebounded. Johnson's goal did defeat Aston Villa. Liverpool's quality got the better of us once more. Johnson showed up again versus Wolves, and Manchester United barely edged us thanks to poor defending on crosses. A disappointing yet deserved Brentford draw, along with revenge over Norwich, brought in the new year. Yeah, 1 win in 5 matches, but 5 undefeated if you're more of a glass half full type of guy. I'm not, because we were winning in all 3 of these. 23 matches in, and 4th place looked unthinkable, let alone Europe in general. Losing to Spurs 4-0 and having to deal with Holland one final time sunk us even further. I can't wait to get out of the Premier League. Project Caicedo was the plan to make Moises a right back, and he certainly developed into it. However, with Liverpool's interest in the summer, I promised he could leave for 88 million. The Reds returned in January with an offer, so I made a non-negotiable response of an 88 million offer up front. They accepted, and I had no choice but to put an end to this project. Take care, Caicedo.
But why?
There was a reason I needed the money. I had 21 million remaining, but I guess AEW were basically going under as they wiped the transfer budget to basically 0. Or maybe we were 100 million in the red. But with this money coming in, Nathan Patterson came as the replacement. It was a hefty price, but needed. To improve depth, we brought in Guido Rodriguez and Thomas Lemar for less than 30 million combined. Finally, let's conclude the Nazio Clown Show.
I hope y'all ready.
Gonzalo Nazio has been the worst signing I've ever made in Football Manager. I bought him for 30 million expecting him to revolutionize my defense. Instead, he had season average ratings of 6.41, 6.67, 6.51, and 6.55. Keep in mind, he was signed for 30 million and his value is now plummeted to 2 cents. He was a top earner at the club, and I couldn't pay anyone more than him because he had the match highest earner clause. In January, he came to me to get more playing time. I told him, no shot, and he asked, what did I do wrong last time, and how can I improve? What you did wrong last time? Did you mean what you did wrong for the last 4 years? I was only given 3 options to respond with, but I wish I could choose them all. His response to me was that everyone's gonna have good and bad matches. I just need a chance to prove myself. Get the hell out. So he handed in a transfer request and was loaned to Inter with a mandatory option to buy for 1 million. Our final venture in the Carabao Cup was actually promising. After Arsenal, we breezed past Shrewsbury Town and Sunderland to make the semi-finals. Sides remaining were Villa, Leeds, and Plymouth. We drew Aston Villa and had a masterclass of a performance, putting 4 past them thanks to a Mitrovic brace. He'd pull off another one in the second leg. Villa could only muster 2 themselves in both fixtures, meaning we were in the Carabao Cup final, resulting in another meeting with Leeds. Mitrovic was dreadful last season, only scoring 10 in all competitions, but this year, he was stepping up, not just in the Cup and the League, but in Europe's elite as well. It It's been mentioned many times, but Atletico Madrid in the playoff round of the Champions League gives us a final chance to avenge the 2010 team. Mitrovic opened the scoring by running past Jimenez's blind side to tug home Shelderup's pass. Then before the break, Brennan Johnson took advantage of a mistake, and he found Mitro for the second. Atletico Madrid found one back, but a 2-1 victory at the Cottage. For the second leg at the Metropolitano, we played off the counter. Another mistake gets taken advantage of by Brennan Johnson, and Guendouzi sealed the deal with a banger. Revenge is served. Before heading into the round of 16, let's deal with the FA Cup. Hull City would have embarrassed us if it wasn't for Marcos Leonardo's brace in a span of 57 seconds. They went to penalties where we didn't miss, while Bedeau would bring tears to the Tiger supporters. Marcos Leonardo would then get a hat-trick versus Bournemouth to send us to the 5th round.
This is intriguing, but highly disturbing.
We came up against Caicedo and Liverpool in the 5th round of the FA Cup, and I guess Klopp enjoyed what I did with him, as despite him having Trent and Livramento, he played Caicedo at right back. This is some joke. Even worse, he found center midfield Trent for the first goal of the game. They then go on to win a penalty, and oh my gosh, Popala, thank goodness. He scored later, and even with Mitro getting one, we were eliminated. The Carabao Cup final was supposed to happen right after, but due to some Champions League success, it was postponed to right before the international break. Nevertheless, in the round of 16 of the Champions League, we got Roma. Out of everyone we could have gotten, I'll take this. Now, we just needed to avoid red cards. I'm talking to you. We started guns blazing, putting the pressure onto Roma, and Mitrovic would find so much space in behind for the opener. The Golden Boy Award winner Endrick would then get his second assist, finding Guendouzi, who with his weak foot broke Roman hearts. Those hearts were temporarily repaired when Mullen found space in behind to get one back. Not ideal, but returning to the Stadio Olimpico with a 2-1 lead, Figo, who was for some reason high up the pitch, won a header which went towards the back post to Shellerup for a 3-1 lead. Unfortunately, his partner Milinkovic made a rare mistake, giving the ball away to Mullen, who ruthlessly took advantage. However, just minutes later, Endrick? Yes! We've been somewhat lucky with our Champions League fixtures this season, although that would change with PSG in the quarterfinals. As I was crapping my pants heading into the Parc des Princes, the boys showed more resolve than me as they miraculously kept a clean sheet. This PSG side no longer has Messi. Neymar is past his prime, but it's a strong side that has the ability to wipe the floor with us. Nevertheless, with the second leg at Craven Cottage and the crowd all behind us, we conceded in the second minute. Great, I say no pressure and they all start crapping their pants. Okay, come on, Mitro. Oh wait, Brennan Johnson. Let's go! We scored against PSG. It's possible. Oh, we won the ball. Mitro? Vitinha. No Mbappe. No. Them scoring a banger would just kill my soul. How? What is that crap? We have nothing to lose. We're down by 2. Mitro in behind to Endrick. Gotta score this, man. Let's go. Got one back. 30 to go. Great ball. Endrick again. Despite doing all that I could, the efforts were not enough. There was one important match left to end this adventure on a high. The last time Fulham won a trophy that wasn't related to the lower divisions was back in 2002, where they lifted the UEFA Intertoto Cup, where there were 2 other winners. Other than that, nothing. Well, our youth team won the Papa John's trophy. Who cares? Jesse Marsh's Leeds United were our opponent. They've basically taken our spot in the table, and with Gnonto on a tear, we needed to step up. Our starting 11 used our 4-3-3 tactic due to the inconsistency of the 4-2-2. Zentner in net because he's our cup keeper, Nathan Patterson and Kostas Tsimikas as the wingbacks, the 20-year-old Togo starting alongside Milinkovic, and protecting the backline was Mulrini due to Guido Rodriguez being cup-tied. The box-to-box will be run by João Gomes, while Guendouzi was our advanced playmaker. On the wings, Shelderup on the left, and Endrick on the right. Up top, our target man, Mitrovic. Let's do it. Shelderup now. Wide from to go. Okay, good start. Corner kick for Leeds. That's so unjust. Come on, we can get back into this. Shelderup. He finds Patterson. Boom! Let's go. Gets his foot on his strike. Great replacement for Caicedo. Scores in the cup final. Massive moment for him. Oh my gosh, he hit the post. Ooh. Offside. We're fine. I think we need to make our first sub. Endrick is a little sore. Let's bring on Brennan Johnson, but we are now falling behind on the expected goals. We'll drop João Gomes into DM, while Rini will come off for Andres Pereira. Okay. Extra time? Yeah, I guess we should probably take Shimikas off. Paulo Toure loses it, makes a mistake. Brennan Johnson takes advantage. Brennan Johnson, Mitrovic! Mitrovic, let's go right at the start of extra time. 2-1, Fulham. Oh my, ends the highlight right afterwards. Bamba, Nonto. Really? Right after the kickoff? That quickly? Maybe I shouldn't have taken off Shimikas then. Alright. No, Patterson. Oh, what a save. Yeah, we can't take Patterson off. I have no options there. Oh, Bamba. Bamba's... Oh. Why are you... Ah, it's because he's tired. That's why. Marcos Leonardo on. Bamba. We allowed freaking Bamba to cut inside onto his right foot. Right, that's the last sub I can make. Come on. 1 minute of... First cup final FM23 is a loss. Unfortunately, it wasn't going to be a happy ending as we ended up finishing 11th in the league. While there were no trophies, there were great moments, and we were able to build an awesome era into Fulham history. While I now have a new dislike for Leeds United, Tony and I built something special.